Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD-2D Remake, and specifically the new Day 1 update that just dropped with the game's launch. The version number is 1.010, and after this we'll just call it the update. Now, this patch isn't just a background fix or a quick stability tweak, it's actually a meaningful little package that improves how the whole experience feels from the first minute you start playing. Whether you're new to Dragon Quest or returning after years of nostalgia, these small updates add up to make a surprisingly big difference. So let's start with something that players are immediately noticing the moment they boot up the game: the inclusion of more English voice work in certain event scenes. It's not like the entire game suddenly got dubbed from start to finish. But now, some of the key moments that really benefit from a voice actor's emotion actually have that extra life. You'll notice it when a major character delivers an important line, or when a dramatic reveal lands. It helps a lot more than you might think. Dragon Quest has always leaned on charming writing and expressive sprites to carry tone, but hearing a little voice acting adds warmth and impact. It's subtle but effective. It draws you in without overwhelming the nostalgic feel of the HD-2D visuals. You'll also notice more traveler's tips popping up throughout the game. These are essentially tutorial prompts that appear at just the right moments, and they've been expanded and refined in this update. They're not intrusive. They're actually helpful reminders that give new players clarity about mechanics that older fans already understand intuitively. Things like how to make the most of certain spells, resistances, or basic battle tactics. If you're new to classic JRPG structure or this is your first Dragon Quest, these little messages will smooth the learning curve nicely. And even if you're a veteran, you'll probably catch a few reminders that save you from making an absent-minded mistake in a dungeon later on. One of the most tangible gameplay additions comes in Dragon Quest 1, where this update adds two new accessories: the antifreeze earrings and the asbestos earrings. These names might sound quirky, but they actually serve a real gameplay purpose. The antifreeze earrings protect you from ice-type attacks, while the asbestos earrings guard against fire-type attacks. They're the kind of items that sound small on paper, but in practice, they can completely change how comfortable you feel pushing into tougher regions. When your solo hero faces enemies that spam ice or fire, having these resistances gives you that extra safety net. It won't make you invincible, but it makes you sturdier and gives you a reason to explore more aggressively without fear of an unlucky elemental hit ending your run. If you've ever played the original version of Dragon Quest 1, you know how unforgiving it could be. You'd be wandering just a little too far from town, and suddenly a stronger enemy pops out and wipes you because of one unlucky critical or spell. These new earrings don't remove that danger, but they give you breathing room. They make you feel a little more strategic, and honestly, that fits the spirit of the remake. It's still old school at heart, but now it respects your time a bit more. Speaking of respecting your time, the AI improvements in the update are probably one of the most quietly important changes for players tackling Dragon Quest II. The patch refines both ally tactics and enemy behavior. If you're using auto battle commands, you'll notice your party members are smarter about when to heal, when to attack, and when to use certain spells. It doesn't feel like you're babysitting them anymore. In the past, AI allies could sometimes waste MP or ignore obvious tactical choices, but the adjustments make them behave more like real companions who actually understand the flow of battle. On the flip side, enemies have had their behavior slightly tuned to make combat fairer, but still challenging. It's about consistency. Fights feel less random, less prone to cheap shots, and more like skillful turn-based duels where planning pays off. Now, tucked under all these bigger additions are the usual miscellaneous fixes and optimizations. And while that phrase always sounds boring, it's important. The performance is noticeably smoother, especially in scenes that used to stutter when too many effects filled the screen. On handhelds in particular, that smoothness makes a world of difference. The HD-2D visuals look stunning when everything runs cleanly. The glowing torches, the shimmering magic, the layered backdrops, all of that pops more clearly when the frame rate stays steady. It's one of those cases where technical polish enhances nostalgia. The charm of pixel art and modern lighting really shine when the game doesn't hitch or lag during big battles. One thing to keep in mind, especially for players on Nintendo hardware, there isn't any cross-save or upgrade path between the older Switch and the new generation hardware. So, when you're choosing your version, pick the one you plan to actually play on long term. You won't be able to carry your data over later, and that's something worth knowing before you invest dozens of hours into your adventure. It's a little inconvenient, but at least you can plan around it now. Another small but very player-friendly improvement in the update is how the traveler's tips now line up better with what you're actually doing in the game. They show up at the right moments instead of random ones. For instance, you might get a tip about elemental weaknesses right before a dungeon where that knowledge is useful, or a reminder about how to prepare your spells before heading into a boss area. It feels intuitive rather than forced, and that's something that makes the remake experience more approachable for everyone without dumbing it down. Now let's talk about how these little tweaks all fit together in the broader rhythm of the games. Dragon Quest, at its heart, has always been about the loop. Explore, fight, recover, gear up, and go again. What this update really does is smooth out that loop. It doesn't change the identity of the games. It just trims away some of the friction points that might have frustrated modern players. The voice acting gives emotional moments a boost, the new accessories balance difficulty spikes, the AI tuning keeps battles fair and efficient, and the performance improvements make everything more enjoyable to look at. It's not reinventing the wheel, it's polishing a classic car so it runs like new. If you're starting with Dragon Quest 1, those two earrings are your new best friends. Think of them as gear for region hopping. If you're about to explore an icy area, put on the anti-freeze earrings. If you're headed into somewhere with lots of fire-based enemies, switch to the asbestos ones. Simple as that. It might not seem like much, but you'll notice how much more confident you feel exploring dangerous areas without burning through all your herbs or healing spells. And because Dragon Quest On is a solo adventure, that little bit of elemental resistance can literally be the difference between success and a game over screen. If you're starting with Dragon Quest 2, you'll see how the AI changes make the game feel smoother. Party members are more reliable, especially when using tactics like follow orders or show no mercy. You won't have to micromanage every move during random encounters, which helps you get into a better rhythm when grinding. Auto battle actually feels trustworthy now, and that's a small miracle in a retro-styled RPG. For tougher boss fights, you'll still want to take manual control, but overall you'll find that the combat has a steadier flow and that your allies make smarter choices more often than not. Performance-wise, if you're playing handheld, you'll really appreciate how much steadier the visuals feel. The HD-2D art is built to look dynamic. Lighting, depth, motion, but it depends on consistent frame pacing. This update gets it closer to that perfect balance. You won't get weird stutters when casting spells or moving between busy town areas anymore. It's not flashy, but it matters. The game feels premium now, like a product of 2025, not a simple repackage of an old title. As for presentation, the added English voices bring charm that works beautifully with the pixel visuals. A little laughter, a gasp, or a line delivered with energy can elevate a simple 16-bit style scene into something memorable. It's amazing how much character those few lines of spoken dialogue add, especially in cutscenes where text alone used to carry all the weight. If you're on the fence about whether to install the patch before playing, absolutely do it first. It's not one of those optional patches you can skip and just patch later. The extra voices, tutorials, accessories, and AI adjustments all exist to enhance the early game experience, which is where most players form their first impressions. Start with everything active so you can enjoy the smoothest, most modern version of these classic adventures. For anyone wondering about order, definitely play Dragon Quest 1 first, then move to 2. Even though these remakes can stand alone, the second game feels richer if you've gone through the first. There are narrative and emotional callbacks that hit harder when you've seen how the world was built. Plus, with the HD-2D treatment, the continuity between the two feels intentional. These aren't just two separate old games glued together. They're presented as connected stories within one cohesive visual and audio style. You'll feel that sense of legacy as you move from one to the next.